Hi. Today we are talking about finding purpose, one of the biggest topics I could possibly tackle, and therefore we're probably going to spend many different videos talking about it. But today is just one angle. I want you to find a basic purpose that maybe gets you to the next day. Because purpose itself is a word that can mean whatever you want it to mean. Because it is a reason to wake up in the morning. It is like an existential reason why you are on this planet. And where we seek meaning and reason from outside of the world, we can think about success or we can think about religion, but I want to propose one path that can work as a good starting point and also tell you why some of the other paths do not work. Basically, the problem with religion and success in finding purpose is that you're looking for a reason to wake up in the morning outside of yourself. And the world cannot tell you what makes you feel good, because every person is different. Although we can, almost like what we've been talking about, reprogram yourself into thinking that you're finding the happiness in the paths that have been laid out for you, we mistake control for purpose. What we are trying to find is purpose, but what we're actually feeling good about is the control that we think we have. Think about a standard career path is that you can go to school, the highest possible school, start a family, have children, as if there's a standard linear path that you can progress, that you have control over. That could make you feel good and give you a reason to wake up in the morning, but ultimately people get disillusioned from that. Same thing with success, is that finding fame or money and just keep generating that in order to buy nice things, go on fancy travels, post your photos on Instagram. All of this is to mean that your path is particular to you. What makes you feel good is particular to you, which means that the path cannot be cookie cutter. It cannot be something that the world tells you. And that's why it's easy. It's selling you an old basket of goods, something that might have worked for some people in the past, and you're trying to convince yourself that it works for you too. I don't want to sound like I'm in any way against religion, because I'm not. But the problem with finding purpose within religion is that it creates something that I'm going to moan about lots of times. It creates hierarchies, because you are, per definition, subservient to a higher being. You are devoted to them. That will give you the illusion that you are working as a small cog in a machine, a part of a larger plan. But often the reason why people like to wake up in the morning for being in these kinds of communities is not because of being in service to the higher being, but that's just a story that people tell each other to connect themselves. So the community here is the real beautiful thing about it. In finding purpose, it's difficult to distinguish these two, but we often misattribute the good feelings that we have from being in a community from that being due to being in service of a god. If you do not make the distinction, you sometimes get to the wrong conclusion. In this case, it's kind of like having your dog that needs to get their medicine, but they refuse to eat it. So often what you do is you get a slice of cheese or you get peanut butter around it so the dog will actually eat it. We all understand that the peanut butter was not the thing that cured the ailment, but it did make devouring the actual medicine a whole lot easier. The story that we tell ourselves in order to be in this community, just like in being in service in God, is in this case the peanut butter that makes the medicine of community way easier. But this is not just religion. It can be God. It can be any fandom that you ascribe to, any community, even the beer in the local sports canteen. It's all peanut butter that is making sure that the medicine of socializing is a lot easier to do. And when it comes to the path of success, is becoming successful, that is also a story that we tell ourselves. It is the peanut butter here. But unfortunately, it does not contain any medicine, because not everyone is meant to walk the same path in the same way. And the key to why success is difficult to find purpose is that when you climb the hierarchy of life, you end up on top. But what mountaintops are often known for is that they are kind of cold. And although you might find a beautiful view if you can see more than just clouds, it does not make you feel the warmth. So let's explore the metaphor of mountain climbing here. Extreme mountain climbing, like going on the Mount Everest, usually is done with an expedition. So you either have a guide or you go in a larger group of people Because if you are going to do it alone, you're going to spell certain doom if you end up in any trouble. So with your group, your expedition of like-minded adventure seekers and your Sherpas, climbing it becomes possible and you rely on these connections when times get tough. What happens then is that getting to the top is not something that you do alone, but when you tell the story later on cocktail parties, you sure as hell are going to act like it was your victory that you did by yourself. But what are you left with after you got the story and you got bragging rights? You have to set a new, more ambitious goal, because if the adrenaline is what you were seeking, or the story and glory that you were seeking, then you gotta find a new thing to start talking about in the future. And it's not something that comes from the inside, but something that, again, we are looking for approval from the outside for. What all of these ways of finding purpose have in common is that we get it from the outside, and we often deliberately forget the input and the role of other people in that journey. And frankly, that is not just because we live in a hyper-capitalist hellhole where everyone is atomized and thinks that it's all about me, but we make it sound like it's our ID, it's our want, by only associating it with us, even though we had to rely and greatly benefit from others. In this way, when we make life all about ourselves, we separate ourselves from others, which even pops up in the way that we talk about these things. Think about earning success, about claiming happiness, about making the world your female dog. And here in the wording you see it, that we mistake control for purpose. We're talking about it as if we're owning it, as if it is ours. But a beautiful thing about life is that you cannot own it. You cannot possess it. You can only be a part of it and experience its beauty whenever it comes your way. So let me give you an answer, a basic way to find purpose. Something that does work for everyone because it's just a few steps further. I'm not telling you what to do. What you are looking for is a reason to wake up in the morning. It is something that makes you feel good and makes you feel that you have a role in life. But the answer cannot be a reason. In this case, it is a feeling, it is warmth. And it's something that you get, but also something you can provide to the people around you. And that's the one thing that about warmth, that when you strip all of the systems of the world away, all the material possessions, and you have nothing, all you can provide for the world is warmth. You can put a smile on people's faces. And that warmth is so core to our humanity that it is destructive when the world's systems make it so difficult for people to be warm to one another and incentivize people to be selfish, all about me, and forget that the one thing that you can do to wake up in the morning, that you can always provide, is your warmth. In a world that talks all about me, and about transactionality, so something needs to be returned when you give something, we see ourselves and our warmth as a candle, that we might lit ourselves up to warm the people around us, but we will slowly burn up and it will diminish us as people. But that's not what we are. I will have to say, if it's a core lesson, that you will absolutely go for long periods of time of unreciprocated energy that you use for people. That you will provide your warmth to people in need or people in want, but you won't get much back. That will absolutely happen. And your normal instinct of that, of self-preservation, is to retreat back in your shell because you think that it drains you, these people are toxic. You just want to go back and not stand out too much. But then people would be missing out on you. No matter how cold the world is, we can always warm it up by being ourselves. Whatever that means. Well, it is in a different video, I'll link it here. But I talk about the lows not to discourage you from doing it. Experience the highs of life has to come with the lows as well. And what would it be worth if you have a life that is just flatline? Just like a heartbeat, that means you're dead. So you only have two choices here. You can be cold, alone, but protected and not able to be hurt. Or you can try to spread your warmth, take the chance on people, be vulnerable and create space around you where people will find it cozy to live. And I'm not saying in any way that you have to have other people to live your life and that you're dependent on these people. You can survive by yourself and be self-sufficient, but you will need others in life to truly thrive and make 1 + 1 is 3. So be bigger than the sum of its constituent parts. So in our fear of being rejected, we go back into our shell and hoard our warmth, never really allowing ourselves to be connected to others. If you're going to see yourself and your warmth as a currency, then let's expand this analogy a bit. With any money, with any investment, it carries a risk. That means that it can not pay off sometimes. But if it's true that any investment carries a risk, unless you're rich, of course, because then the government might bail you out, or there are many different ways to declare bankruptcy without actually losing all your money. But still, if any investment carries a risk that it will fail, that shouldn't mean that you never make any investments in the first place, because then you'll stay exactly where you are. What you should do is that some investments are going to pay off dividends, way more money, so that you have the money left to make other investments that might not always pan out. But you do not know that beforehand. That's why I don't like the idea of it being a currency, because people are not failed or successful. You always learn something from it. And not investing at all is also not an option, because having no connection with people will mean you will become socially dead too. So if we consider our warmth to be in currency, what we often do is we don't want to spend it on people that are not worthwhile. And this is going to sound very noble in current dating worlds, saying that you value yourself enough to have them prove themselves worthy of your love. So gradually build it up. What we do is we build up these walls that people have to surmount in order to get to our hearts, which is not easy. You don't want to make love and warmth a challenge for people. But your expectation then would be that you are within your walls, not giving people warmth until they prove themselves worthy. But in order for them to scale the walls, they would need to give you warmth continuously until they have proven themselves. That's unrealistic in a world where everyone has to put up their own walls. Then everyone is just going to live beside one another, never really making that connection, taking the leap of faith and trying to see the other person for who they are and not for who they pretend to be in fear of being rejected. This is a huge mistake, because you will then never deem them worthy enough, and tell yourself afterwards that people are just not good, people are just not worth trying, and then people are in the same way going to play games and not put in enough effort in order to really make that connection. And that's sad. And why this is so destructive is that warmth is the necessary unit, the social currency for every interaction. You need it to do everything, but we save it as if we are afraid that there's going to be an economic crisis. For example, warmth is needed for everything. You need it to love, you need it to make friends, to keep friends, to enrich the connections that you have. You need it to get by. You need it to be seen, heard and understood, and to do the same for other people. Every social interaction, its lubricant, is better with warmth. And that is why I want to permanently get rid of the idea that warmth is a currency anyway, because there's no transactionality here. That means that there is no give and return guarantee. There's no even expectation of return. You do it because it feels good. And we cannot even hoard the warmth. We can only share it because it exists between people. And it's also not like a currency as if there's a finite amount. It is potentially infinite. And if you don't do anything, you will gain no warmth and you will have no warmth as well. It just doesn't exist that way. Again, it's not money, because we are the money printers of this currency. We can be rich and we can make other people rich in that way as well. And warmth can take any form. It can be a sly smile to someone you don't know, a helping hand when you see someone's in need, be a small gesture, a compliment for someone that might be self-conscious about something, or just out of the blue, a hug or a kiss. Well, maybe not to strangers, that's even weird for my standard, but you can be someone's clown, but you can be someone's squire as well. And although there is no expectation or guarantee that you'll get anything in return down the line, unless of course you believe in karma, don't ever think that the warmth that you bring to the universe will go unnoticed. Somewhere down the line, it will get noticed or appreciated, you might not even know. But you are making the world a better place, and that is reason enough. To make it sound more scientific, the first law of thermodynamics states that warmth will stay within the closed system and spread out. You don't have to worry that it will just disappear. And this is why it's just a basis of finding purpose, because this is what you can do every day that you wake up to get that good feeling. Yes, it will be daunting sometimes and it can be tiring, but it will always be worth it, because although you might mean nothing to the world, you might mean the world to someone. And this is where we'll end on. Let's start with the last analogy. Imagine that you are a very small star in the night sky, just a small little twinkle, seemingly insignificant in all the stars in the universe. But zoom in on that little twinkle for a while. Up close, this star that seems so small from our position might be very big, bigger than our sun. You might even be the sun in another solar system entirely, making life possible, habitable, and comfortable for all the life forms around you, making all the beauty that comes from creating life possible. And that is what makes life worth living, because you can lift yourself up by lifting other people up. Don't mistake that you can make a huge difference to the people around you. That is the very real power that you hold every day, with the light that only you can shine, with the warmth that you provide on a daily basis to everyone around you indiscriminately. That concludes another video on our journey. I'm happy to see that you're still around. Hopefully you'll watch another video as well, because all of these topics are quite interrelated. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe for more videos, because we're going to revisit this topic at another date for another reason and a different angle. Leave down in the comments below the answer to the question, have you ever felt like there was someone doing something kind that made your day that they might not even know about it? Or have you ever heard from someone the feedback that you meant something to them without, or years later, without you even knowing? Then I'll see you in the next one.